A former bookkeeper who stole over 500 million rand will be sentenced today. Hildegard Steenkamp pled guilty to over 336 charges related to fraud and theft. She stole the money over 13 years from Medtronic. eNCA reporter Hloni Mtimkulu is following proceedings and joins us live. Hloni, thank you so much for your time. Can you bring us up to speed as to the proceedings that went on today?
Yeah, good afternoon, Cindy. So it is the lunch break at the moment. Early lunch was taken and we should be back at around 1:30. We are hearing arguments in aggravation and mitigation of sentence today. It's a process that started today and I believe will run until either tomorrow or Wednesday as well. The prosecution has, well, first of all, proceedings did start late this morning. They were meant to get underway at 9 o'clock, but because of load shedding and the generators in the court precinct not kicking in at 8 o'clock. We then started after 10 o'clock when load shedding began. We started with the prosecution calling up their witness, Graham Dawes from the auditing firm Deloitte, and he is giving at the moment an account of what happened with Hildegard Steenkamp and how she did manage to defraud Medtronic, her former employer, of that amount of 537 million rand, Cindy. It was made up of 336 transactions that happened over a period from around December 2004 right up until December 2016. So about 12 to 13 years where all these transactions were happening, and she was found guilty earlier this year. She pled guilty and she was found guilty earlier this year, Cindy. So we are getting to the end of this process, but it has been very, I've been, just wrapping my mind around just the scale of the things that have been told, that we have been told today, and how things unfolded over this long stretch of time, Cindy.
And Hloni, this is indicative of the saying that the wheels of justice turn very slowly. But whatever it is that you might be guilty of, that ultimately it will catch up with you over a 13-year period, 500 million rand, a former bookkeeper. This is not necessarily a high-profile case, but it's quite a surmountable amount, in the sense that 500 million rand being stolen from a private company and eventually being tracked down to a former employee. I think it sends a very strong message that whatever it is, the transgressions you get involved in, you will be caught.
Yeah, I think so. The auditor just speaking was talking about how in some months, because he was asked what was the highest amount of money that was stolen at any one time, and he said in some months there was 20 million that was taken. I was speaking to Gareth earlier today, just that when it did begin, it was small amounts. There was like 70, well, relatively small amounts given the scale of 500 million. It started at around 70,000. There would be 100,000 here and there, and then over the years it escalated into these big amounts. The auditor was saying how around 2005, 2006, Hildegard Steenkamp's colleagues then noticed lifestyle changes. And while we're still trying to work out how exactly it was found out that this was happening. There were signs that something was going on. But just to give an idea, an official word in terms of the scale of this and how it was uncovered, let us hear from Graham Dawes from Deloitte about today's case, Cindy.
So it's a complex matter, but I'll try and explain it in the simplest terms. Effectively what happened was the accused was involved in processing of all of the VAT claims on behalf of the company. So the company had two entities. They would import large volumes and amounts of medical equipment into South Africa, and then they would on-sell it to the local company Medtronic Africa. And between the two, that created an opportunity for the company to claim back input VAT on the imports. So in its most simplest form, they were able to reclaim money that they had paid to SARS. Effectively what happened here was the accused managed to set herself up as a beneficiary on the bank account of Medtronic. paying herself monies that purported to be either for customs clearing agents or for SARS itself.
And Hloni, as you were saying, and we heard from the auditors at Deloitte, that it is very complex, especially if you're going to put a sophisticated system and the accused locating herself themselves as a beneficiary of what was supposed to go to the company in terms of VAT rebates, but nonetheless, all of it had now been uncovered over this 13-year period. Do we know at this stage how much has been recovered?
Yeah, so that's the part of just the mind-blowing part, that this 537 million rounded off, only about, we heard 30 million has been recovered, and that wasn't even in cash necessarily, so it was in the form of other assets. So you can imagine just the scale of this. And just to add, the bulk of the transactions, as the auditor said, was input VAT claims. SARS initially paid back 311 million rand. Then 107 million rand was not paid because SARS questioned this. So then there was also litigation fees related to that, and then 111 million rather was not claimed or was not paid from SARS. So there's just a lot of amounts of money that are going around, but just in terms of how much they were able to reclaim, let us hear from Graham Dawes about that. Cindy.
So the total amount that we uncovered was 336 transactions, and the total value was, and I'll round it to 537 million. No, Your Worship, it was not recovered. There was a process that was undertaken through the Asset Forfeiture Unit to restrain the available assets at the time of the accused's arrest. And I think, if also memory serves me correctly, I think the total value at that stage was around 30 million that was recovered at that point in time. And that was in the form of assets. It wasn't in the form of cash specifically.
Hloni, just maybe if you will give us a profile of who Hildegard Steenkamp is, because more often, especially if proceedings are allowed to be on camera, the privacy of the accused is protected until a final conviction is made. Can you give us a sense of who the accused is, any previous convictions or even possible crimes that they may have committed?
Yeah, we heard today that the accused did not have a history or previous convictions. She started at Medtronic in June 2004. I know the charge sheet had said September 2004, but we heard today that it was June 2004, and the activities then started about 6 months later, rather, in December 2004. She started as a bookkeeper. What we've seen of her today is, we haven't seen her before, but she looks very withdrawn, and her face has been looking down the whole time. We had tried earlier to take visuals of her, but she wasn't really happy to be in our visuals. But obviously now with the cameras on, that is a little bit different. But yeah, so started as a bookkeeper. They said her former colleagues that at around 2005, 2006, then they noticed these lifestyle changes. There were lots of overseas trips, we heard. There was gambling that was taking place as well. There was a lot of buying of jewelry and luxury items as well. So once that was those systems were put into place, this picture, this person or this profile or this lifestyle kind of emerged from all of that. And then in 2016, on the 14th of December, then her husband passed away then, and that put an end to these transactions that were taking place then. So it seems over the past 12 years, just under 13 years or 12 years or so, that all of these things were happening, but she benefited from being part of this company, this part of the system, where she was able to defraud Medtronic of all of these amounts of money, amounting to 537 million rand. Cindy.
Yeah. So what are we expecting in terms of further proceedings going forward before the matter concludes?
Yeah, so we will be back, as I said, at around 1:30, where so the prosecution has one witness. We know that as not Cindy, apologies, that Hildegard herself will also be called up by the defense as a witness. However, they've requested that her testimony be done or be conducted in Afrikaans, where they say that she would want to, or she'd feel more comfortable expressing herself better. So we're expecting her to also come up, and then I guess that will wrap up this part of things, and then we'll hear from the judge following that. We don't expect any more witnesses after both teams have called up their one witness, Cindy.
All right, Hloni, thank you so much for that update. We're seriously out of time, and that is Hloni Mtimkulu just giving us an update on the Hildegard Steenkamp case where she had pleaded guilty to a charge of defrauding Medtronic of 537 million.